Welcome back, Cyber Academy students. And it's really cool when you think about it. This is episode 4 of
Yes,
this
indeed.
series. We've been through 3 of them, and we've talked about how you can protect your devices and how you can defend yourself against the crimes that are committed in the cyberspace of the world.
Number 4.
Think your computer and accounts are safe because of all that we've talked about?
Think again!
Hackers break into systems every day. Even the most protected ones in the world, they can still be penetrated because,
Again, every
unfortunately,
39 seconds. Every single 39 seconds. And that's not a lot of time in a day with like 86,000 plus seconds. So that's a lot of cyber attacks every single day.
Unfortunately, the truth is that most people don't take cybersecurity very seriously. And I mean, a lot of people think it's a straight up joke. So no wonder they're so surprised when even a moderately sized attack by our standards is so shocking to a lot of people because it's like, what? How could this happen? But a lot of people just don't really seem to try and prevent that from happening. Even if it happens to them multiple times, some people will still be kind of lazy about it.
Cybersecurity is the type of field in life that it takes a lot of your basic skills with technology and puts them into something much larger than yourself. But don't worry about all of this. Don't feel afraid or bad about anything. Don't worry. We, the two of us, are going to show you how you can lock down your system so that even the best hackers, the most experts, the best people on the job in terms of like criminal hacking or malicious hacking, threat actors, will have a hard time getting in, nigh impossible. A lot of hackers aren't really geniuses when it comes to technology, but indeed there are a lot of very advanced people out there with studies from the best universities in the world or expertise with the most advanced technology of our modern times that use it for hacking. We are going to show you how you can put a stop to that, how you can make using technology a much cleaner experience for yourself.
By the end of this video, by the end of this new episode, you'll have learned 1, how hackers break into computers and accounts.
How
This
they
is
actually do what they
more
do.
so physical stuff,
it's
physical
physical.
devices.
Hardware.
That's, of course, a very important thing that a lot of people overlook because there's a lot of cybersecurity focused on software, not that much focused on hardware. Number 2, the 5 must-have security measures to protect yourself. And number 3, how to make your system, that's referring to software now,
Yes,
hacker-proof, virtually hacker-proof.
This is episode 4 of the Twin Tech Cyber Academy Cybersecurity class. We are going to be teaching you how you need to set up a secure system that hackers can't break into. Or at least if they do break into it, they won't be able to cause any damage. So let's get started with this.
Segment 1, how hackers break into systems. Before we talk about security, that is protecting, we need to talk about what you're protecting yourself from, what you need to protect yourself from anyways. So you need to know how hackers get in. Here are the 3 biggest, most common, not to say most efficient, not even to say best necessarily, but these are the 3 most used ways hackers try to attack the cyberspace. Number 1 is with weak passwords and also having no 2-factor authentication, otherwise known as multi-factor authentication, also known as 2-step verification.
Essentially, what hackers will do here is they'll use methods like credential stuffing, taking leaked passwords and putting them, like forcing them onto other websites that you are active on. Or the classic brute force attack, just typing in a password over and over and over again until they actually get in. They do this to guess weak passwords. We are living in an era in which we've released lists of the weakest passwords available, of the most common passwords available. Leaks are happening every single day, and because a lot of people tend to go for the kind of like mid-tier range of strength at the very, very best for passwords, most passwords are pretty fragile.
And you know the insane thing? We released lists of the most commonly attacked and weakest passwords out there. And there are still people who use them. They will read those lists and they will still use those passwords. It's what I said. Cybersecurity is not taken very seriously, even with how much People have been talking about it for some time now.
There's also the fact that strong passwords aren't safe too. Making a strong password is really good for security. But the problem is, if you use that same password everywhere, hackers will find it in leaks. If you have a strong password and you put it on 25 websites,
yes, you have a strong password, but that's 25 of the same thing. If
let's say
one
that
hacker gets that
one of them
password,
gets leaked,
that's 25 things that you have all put in danger.
So hackers will find it in leaks because usually most companies, what they do to hold themselves accountable for cyber attacks, they'll come out with a full document, an investigation will be conducted, and they'll release findings. They'll also probably release the list of passwords so that they can inform their users to change it, or the hackers will do it themselves. Now then, a hacker can take this weak password, strong password of yours, and then apply it to every single one of those websites. So now your strong password has been compromised because you used it weakly. So it's one thing to have a strong password, you also have to use it in a strong manner. And there's also the factor of no two-factor authentication. Multi-step verification actually has a lot to do with passwords. It's all about making sure that your password is protected with an extra layer of security. Maybe it's a random question that you have to answer. Maybe it's entering in a code. Maybe it's getting a call when it comes to banking and finance when you want to do a transaction.
A lot of people do find it quite annoying and inconvenient, and yes, it does have its flaws.
Especially for the fact that you can't really use it on everything. You really need to be kind of picky about what you use two-factor authentication for. Something like banking, it's absolutely necessary. Something like a social media application, you don't really need that extra layer of security unless, you're the type of person that wants to be security conscious all the time.
But two-step verification is a very important thing to have, especially in workplace environments, because on top of basic security you can make for yourself, it adds another layer that hackers don't really have access to try and beat at this point. But it's not used in a lot of places, which is why hackers don't even have to worry about it, because they can make a pretty good guess the company they're trying to attack doesn't even use it. Number 2,
let's move on.
Outdated software and unpatched security holes.
The problem with software is that, of course, it ages along with us. As you get older, software will get older. And older software, this is just kind of a natural thing. It's not quite a specific problem of today. It will definitely have known vulnerabilities that hackers can easily exploit. Remember what I said about some hackers not being geniuses at all and some hackers being the absolute best in their field? One thing that pretty much all hackers have in common is that they're very good with the software that they use. They know the software very intimately, they know all of its strengths, and they know all of its weaknesses, but they actually know all of its vulnerabilities.
And another
vulnerabilities
kind of
are differently from
that
weaknesses.
They, no matter if they're good or bad, a cold thing about them is that they keep their devices up to date, so that they can ironically then prey on people that don't do that. Looking at some of the worst cyber incidents of all time,
the absolute most catastrophic
common running theme for a lot of them is that their software just wasn't updated. It's literally as simple as, oh wow, you need an update on your phone or your computer, and you don't go through it. Well, some companies, some organizations don't do that either, and it costs them dearly.
It also comes down to the fact that some organizations will actually purposefully use older software. Maybe it has specific features that they utilize, or whatever reasons that they may have, like how they sell physical versions of Windows. Maybe some companies still like to go out and buy Windows 7 or 8 when we're living in an age where Windows 10 and 11 are still getting major updates. Or maybe some people opt to prefer to use Mac OS from like 5 versions back when we have the modern versions of Mac on the new iMacs and MacBooks and whatnot. Simple things like that. It's those type of vulnerabilities that hackers just love to take advantage of. Again, they know the software intimately. They know probably practically everything you need to know about it. If you want to hack something, you need to know everything about that thing. It's like trying to get into your house. You need to know everything about your house before you even want to try and get into it.
And we mean it when we say that when it comes to cybersecurity, simple stuff like this may not matter to individuals that much, but cybersecurity at its core is all about protecting groups. It's not about individuals. It's not about protecting the president's phone. It's about protecting everyone's phones. And when companies don't take the steps, just basic steps necessary to try and stop that from happening, really tragic events can occur.
Back in 2023, around in the fall season, a more than 150-year-old logistics company known as KNP, or Knights of Old, they suffered a cyber attack. What happened is that this group of ransomware hackers known as Akira, very interesting name, I know, they tried a brute force attack on just one employee, and they had a weak password.
This
employee
one
was using
person
a weak
out of
password.
all of the employees at the company, this mega old company, this one person had one weak password, and they didn't even use any sophisticated technologies.
No
As we
other
discussed in
methods.
previous episodes, brute force is basically the worst method. It's the most inefficient.
It's the most common. It's the
But-
most natural.
It's a tragic twist of irony that they were able to use this very basic method, and that was how they got through.
They
Because
actually did it. It actually worked.
Cybersecurity is kind of a glass cannon. It's very, complex method to try and protect yourself. But honestly, once hackers find one weak vulnerability, it's over.
I mean, we're talking about the vulnerabilities of software and hackers, but I mean, there you go. Cybersecurity in of itself is not perfect. There's a lot that you have to do to really understand it, and it can still be really fragile in a lot of areas. As for KNP Logistics over here, not only did they successfully manage to get into one employee's weak password and then access the whole database themselves, the company also had no multi-factor authentication. They did not have any extra layers of security, even for strong passwords, which is what I was talking about earlier. That kind of thing is really all focused on passwords. As a result, they basically took all of their data and held it for ransom. And when I say ransom, I mean millions of dollars in cryptocurrency.
About 3.7 million actual dollars.
For ransom, which for a logistics company is actually pretty hard to pay because pretty much all the money that they receive has to go towards their business. They did not pay, and it ended up killing the whole company. About 3 months later, they ceased operations. 730 plus employees lost their jobs, and the founder today has gone on a huge media spree warning people about the dangers of, not taking cybersecurity seriously, because he didn't, the whole company didn't, and look what happened to them.
Very tragic story. Number 3, unsecured internet connections. More specifically, stuff like public Wi-Fi, having no VPN. Now, we've talked about public Wi-Fi. Even you probably know about how public Wi-Fi is basically a shorthand term for if you use it, you're gonna get hacked today.
Yeah. A virtual private network is defined as the type of network that you can purchase on your own, and it is a software that encrypts all of your internet traffic. So it basically gives you your own way to access the web, and no one will be tracking you. That means that no hackers can come after you, no malware will be interacting with your computer. When it means private, it literally means private, and this is really good for security. Security and privacy go a bit hand in hand. Security isn't necessarily about privacy. Pretty much all privacy is about security. It's kind of a weak correlation, but VPNs are very, very useful, and a lot of them have very good cybersecurity practices that can really help you when it comes to having a secure system.
But again, like MFA, a lot of companies don't really use it. Again, it's not necessarily as strongly recommended as multi-factor authentication.
It's more
because
of a personal
VPNs are
option.
more paid products. They can be used personally, but
Yeah.
it is still a very good option for organizations, groups of larger people to seek out.
Indeed. It's also good for families. So, you can share among your loved ones so you can all stay secure. That's the benefit of VPNs. I mean, they're called virtual private networks, but they can be more intrapersonal. What hackers do for people that don't have VPNs or they use public Wi-Fi a lot, they spy on them. You can access public Wi-Fi's really easily.
Anyone can access
very, very easily because they usually don't have any intermediate devices like routers or firewalls. They want people to have the easiest access to them. They can spy on the people by joining the same public Wi-Fi, and they can very easily steal passwords and data because they can see pretty much all that they're up to. They can also set up fake Wi-Fi networks, which is actually a real thing. That sounds like something out of a dystopia, but it's actually true. There are many tools and software that allow hackers to create frameworks for fake Wi-Fi, and they can set them up so that they can fool somebody into clicking on it. They even it's a very common practice for hackers to do the type of styling where they'll make a fake Wi-Fi that is public Wi-Fi, and they'll intentionally make it weak so that stealing the data is like a complete breeze. It's one of the easiest things that they'll do in their life. It's like
Again.
solving first grade math problems when you're in 12th grade.
Wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
So now let's move on to segment 2. The 5 must-have security features.
So now that we've talked about a lot of the things that you'd want to avoid when trying to make a secure system, let's actually talk to you about good security measures to take. Like,
To actually make that strong system.
first of all, as we've discussed very early on, you need to have a strong password and two-factor authentication or multi-step verification, because some of them will involve multiple steps, not just 2. You need to have at least 12 plus characters. Some websites and organizations will have different mandates on a minimum length, but you always want to make sure you hit those double digits. That's
And again,
really good.
even then, it really is to say that basically all companies should be going for higher mandates. We cannot live in a world where companies are saying do 6 minimum characters, which is absolutely pitiful. And there are companies that do have 6, have 8, have 10, even 12 at least. That's just a good baseline.
Now, you also want to mix uppercase, lowercase, and as well as numbers and symbols.
Basically,
in your
make it
password.
like a cereal. Like, imagine if you took Lucky Charms, Honey Nut Cheerios, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Fruit Loops, and Fruity Pebbles, and kind of all just mix them together. Yeah, make your password something like that.
Be creative too. Make sure it's something that only you can
Don't
remember.
use real info about yourself. Don't
Don't
use your
do that.
name. Don't use your birth date. Don't use your place of birth.
Use, stuff that like you like. So like the name of your favorite band or what your favorite hobby is, stuff like that. That makes for stronger passwords, because even if you have a strong password, if it contains personal information, well, that's a piece of personal information that just got leaked. And again, make sure to apply two-factor authentication on all important
You don't
accounts.
necessarily have to do it for all of your accounts, because you want to strike that balance between convenience and security. But on all important stuff, so your bank, stuff like that, just make sure you have it in there.
MFA isn't necessarily meant for convenience, so you really have to consider when you want to use it and what you are going to be using it for.
Number 2, keep your software and operating system updated at all times.
There are a lot of easy ways to do this. You can enable automatic updates. There are a lot of OSs that allow you to just enable automatic updates, so you don't even have to think about it, and they'll handle it for you. Of course, if you want to do that manually, there are some options to do that too. But generally, if you don't want to think about it, go ahead and find the option in your settings for your phone, your tablet, your laptop, even your TV. TVs that have updates too, because technically TVs are a piece of technology and they count in what we're talking about. Enable automatic updates,
And a
because
lot of
they're
them
always
have it
working on
enabled
that.
for you by default. A lot of
Yes, indeed.
systems will at least have that one up. That's very good that a lot of smart devices today,
They
as soon
have
as you
that in
get
mind.
them, they can automatically update themselves. But make sure you force it to do that, just to be safe.
Absolutely. You need to use the latest version of Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. For any of you Linux viewers watching out there, on Ubuntu or Debian or Devuin or FreeBSD, Linux Mint. I could go on and on and on. I know like 6 Linux distros, I think, honestly.
There are a lot. Whatever distro you have, they all update, and that should be just fine.
For Windows 11 users, make sure to keep up with updates on Windows 11. For Mac OS users, try buying Apple technology with the new versions of Mac OS, or if you have an older one that you're using, companies tend to support their technology for a long time. So if you don't want to buy a new piece of technology, you don't need to. Just make sure you're using a device that's still updated to this day. If
And
you're
when
using
you
a device
finally reach the limit, when you finally reach a point in which it can't keep updating with the current software, then it's maybe time to get something new.
If you have a device that only updates to 2023, well, we're in 2025. You might want to consider maybe moving all of that data to a new device. Finally, you need to update browsers, apps, and security tools regularly. Those are separate applications on your device, your
Because
piece
you
of
can
hardware.
keep your device secure. You can keep that safe. But there can be things you use on that device. There can be programs that you use, and they can become weak. It won't take down your whole device, but it's not just about keeping your device secure. It's about keeping everything that is on it secure on its own as well.
So if you're using multiple browsers, make sure to keep all of them updated. Or if you just stick to your default browser, make sure to constantly check for updates on that. If you have a lot of applications, so maybe office apps, editing apps, social media apps, any games that you play, make sure to update them. Because if you don't update them, they can really weaken the security of your whole device in general, as well as security tools. So anything that defends your computer, any password managers, any tools in your device that are meant for security, they need to have updates
and you
too.
probably want to keep that on the most. You want to be worried about that the most, because the last thing you'd want to happen with cybersecurity is you get security tools, and because you don't update them or keep them in tip-top shape, they end up failing you, but it's your fault because you couldn't keep them up to date properly.
That's something you definitely want to avoid for sure.
Number 3, use a VPN on public Wi-Fi, because public Wi-Fi is unavoidable. We all use it at some point, whether
And
we're going to a hotel or something like that. So if you're on public Wi-Fi, of course, make sure to use a VPN if you have one. And there are free VPNs out there.
There are definitely free VPNs. The thing about public Wi-Fi is that it is maximum convenience. Where MFA prioritizes security, public Wi-Fi is meant to be, just Wi-Fi on the cheap whenever you need it, but you can't access your own, probably safer, more complex, more well-developed Wi-Fi. It has routers, has firewalls. The benefits of using a VPN on public Wi-Fi is that it can protect your data from hackers that are spying in on these networks. Like I discussed earlier, it's very easy for hackers to spy in on public Wi-Fi, so it protects your data and makes sure that it's not going to anyone else but you. It encrypts your internet traffic, so everything that you do on the internet is encrypted, not only to you, but to the VPN as well. So it's really kept safe. All the information that you might be processing, it's not tampered with.
And of course, there are a lot of recommended VPNs out there. There's NordVPN, ExpressVPN,
Free
Ghostly VPN, there's private internet access,
Yep.
Proton VPN, Mulvad, lots of options.
Like so many options. Make sure to look over it. If you're considering a VPN, make sure you decide for yourself which one you think is best so that you can make your own decision. But all of them do the basic things that VPNs do, which is to be very useful.
Number 4, install a firewall and antivirus.
Believe
This is
it or
a bit
not-
more complicated because there are a lot of people who don't really know how to install a firewall. A lot of people assume, firewall, antivirus, they're just used by big companies, but there are products that individuals can use as well.
Believe it or not, a lot of technology does not come pre-installed with a firewall, although this is becoming more common. And it's also actually quite difficult to install a firewall, so if you don't know how to do it, we recommend that you do your own research. For any device that you're using, look up how to install a firewall, how to access the firewall, because maybe it's there, it's just not activated, although this is becoming more common too. What firewalls do is that they block unauthorized access to your system. The biggest cause of cyber attacks is unauthorized access. And that doesn't really have a specific definition on its own, but it's simply hackers getting access into, software that they are not authorized to use. So maybe it's private for employees, or maybe they don't have an account, but they somehow get access anyway. That is unauthorized access.
By and large, it's literally like a home intruder. Just someone being at a place they shouldn't be, they don't own, and they want to break in.
Yes, exactly. Exactly like a home invasion. So for any of you that have watched Home Alone, firewalls are like all of the traps that Kevin sets for the intruders. Literally. That's the cybersecurity version of Home Alone, basically.
And then there's an antivirus, which detects and removes malware. It's kind of like when you get a vaccine for a virus that you have. There's no better explanation than that. It's
yeah,
a
there's
vaccine,
really no better explanation.
quite simply put.
It removes all the symptoms that a device might have of malware, and it also makes sure that the malware can't enter into the device again. So instead of blocking it like a firewall, it just destroys it. Like, how vaccines destroy a virus.
And if it ever comes up again, and if any other malware, whether it's the same or it's different, it just terminates it on site.
It'll also make it weaker so that if it can't terminate it on site, once it gets into your device, it won't do any significant damage.
And there are a lot of great options here as well. There's McAfee, probably the most well-known. There's Avast, Bitdefender. There's Kaspersky, very complicated. There's Norton too. There's even Windows Defender. Many of you might know that it is built into Windows systems.
And it's very, very well developed. So you're going to want to consider using that. Finally, number 5. Number 5 is
securing your email and your social media accounts.
because a lot of people, they use software that doesn't rely on security. So a lot of social media accounts, a lot of platforms like YouTube and blogging platforms like Tumblr and Wattpad, they do not really focus on security.
Because that's not necessarily the main focus per se.
And usually you'll be asked to log in your email so you can get notifications and you can get emails sent from these companies. But it's also actually very important for security. Putting in your email means that you're basically giving them the right to enter in and give personal data of their own, and that can be very sensitive. This is the type of data that you need to be the most watchful of. Not necessarily the most secure on, but the most watchful of. This is the surface layer of security, and so it's the easiest for hackers to just steal from, to clean up the whole thing.
And of course, for a lot of people, it would hurt to have, these are the accounts that people use by far the most on the web.
Every single day in their life.
Most people owe it to themselves to at least add some pretty good security for the data they value the most.
I'm willing to bet that people would probably take cybersecurity the most seriously for this level.
So first off, you need to turn on login alerts. These are things when you're getting hacked and a company sends you an email and they say, we just noticed a login to your account from this device or somewhere we don't know of yet. If this is you, so this is you using multi-factor authentication, or maybe you got an account on your computer, you're signing into your phone, it'll say, you don't have to worry, it's just you signing in again. But if it wasn't you and it wasn't you, you're in trouble, kid.
Also, if you know it wasn't you and you didn't know that, they'll usually recommend you some steps to take. Like, okay, here's what to activate. Here's what to do. This is personal for me, actually, because I hate login alerts myself. Like, whenever I log into YouTube on one device, aside from my own computer, I really find it unnecessary. But for the sake of cybersecurity, it's actually very useful and a really smart move by companies because they know that your email is probably the most sensitive piece of personal data that you have. You need to be really careful with your email. So make sure to turn on those login alerts.
Next up is to use privacy settings. This can vary wildly depending on what I just said. There's privacy settings on your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, and they all vary wildly, but in general, they should be called privacy, and it should be about you controlling your data. Simple switches like, oh, I don't want it to be used. I don't want companies to track my data. This is to limit what people can see about you online, because the whole thing about hackers and what they do is that they see people just putting their stuff on the internet for free. And it's like, oh, wow, free eats. I can just use this to attack people. But if you don't even put it on there, then the hackers basically might not even know that you exist.
It's also useful to note that you need to access the privacy settings of the social media applications themselves. A lot of them control what type of notifications you want to set. You can control the type of emails that you send. Like, I don't want notifications about new blocks to follow. I don't want emails about any login alerts, although you do need to turn those on. You can limit what the social media companies are also seeing about you online.
And of course, you need to be smart. You need to leave on all the settings that will defend you, that will make you more secure, and you need to turn off everything that at the moment is causing you more vulnerability than defense.
Also, you need to make sure not to overshare personal info. It's very common for hackers to start their attacks by doing a simple Google search about you. If they know your name, then they'll search you up online, and from there, they will use their hacking skills to get into places that you are active on, and they'll log into companies, and they'll log into your banking details and whatnot. So you make sure, this is just a general tip for social media in general. It's not really related to cybersecurity, but it does have an impact on cybersecurity. For whatever social media that you use, absolutely do not overshare any personal info that you have. This is where phishing attacks really come in. Phishing is defined as a form of social engineering used commonly in cybercrime to get people to fall
usually
for
through
obvious
email.
tricks.
And that's the thing about email. They make the email look like it comes from someone you know, you can trust, but it's not someone you can know and they can trust. They use that to deceive you. Here's something that you should do in general when it comes to cybersecurity. This is something I think every single person who watches this video should do. It's honestly kind of morbid, a little bit creepy, but honestly, go on any search engine you use. Look up your name. And I'm saying look up your full name, look up your email address. hit enter, and see what happens. See all the places you are tracked, and that will give you a good sense of, honestly, this whole entire course, what we're talking about here. It will give you just, wow, I didn't even know all of these people, all of these things know about my existence. When I didn't know about them, they knew about me. And then
it's pretty scary.
Go
honestly.
from there. See what you can do to kind of reduce that list.
Now for segment 3, here are some advanced security tips. Like, we're talking the absolute best information you will ever hear in your life.
Because I know a lot of people would honestly be pretty happy hearing all of these ways we can protect ourselves. Like, oh wow, I can keep my devices safe. I won't have to worry about being hacked. I won't have to worry about intruders. But you want to go even further than that? For the people who want to, here's some extra steps to make your system even more secure. These hackers will be fuming with rage because it's like, dang it, they listened to both of us and now they have the most secure systems in the whole world.
Here's one thing you gotta understand about hackers. Credit to them, actually. They are some of the most persistent people on Earth. They will stop at nothing to get their end goal of affecting as many people as possible. Or if they're specifically targeting you, they will use whatever methods that they can. So here are some extra
determination that
tips.
they have, let's apply that to our devices as well.
The thing about this episode, to try and defeat hackers, we kind of have to be hackers of our own data. Not hacking anyone else's data, hacking our own data.
Number 1, use encrypted messaging apps. No, you can't just jump to, oh, what about WhatsApp? What about WhatsApp Business? What about Facebook Messenger? What about iMessage?
What about Threads? What about Instagram? What about TikTok? What about every single platform that you use today?
All of them have something, but encrypted messaging apps are ones that are developed specifically so you can keep on doing your normal social activity,
Yes.
but with the comfort and safety of knowing that they've installed extra measures in place to make sure that hackers are going to have a bad time when trying to deal with these things.
All of your messages are encrypted, so packets of information are only between you and the user you're interacting with. It's all private. We recommend Signal or Telegram, which are fantastic social media applications that are very free, but, have very strong security. They don't use regular SMS. They encrypt everything.
Number 2, set up a separate admin or guest account, because on many devices you can have profiles. You can have your normal account, which is just you doing what you do. You can set up other ones, of course, with different emails.
You can add other people's accounts, so like your family members.
But here's where the specialty comes in. You can also create a guest account, so basically anonymous and admin, which is more powerful, higher level than you with some of your limited options. Use it daily just to make sure that you're safe. You can use it to check in on yourself when you're not on your own profile. You can do a lot with it.
This isn't quite like incognito mode. Just to make that distinction, incognito mode is actually kind of a fraud. It's not private in a lot of ways. You'll still be tracked, and hackers have actually used incognito in the past to do their attacks. In fact, a lot of hackers will start their attacks.
Most hackers honestly use
by using
incognito on browsers because if anything, it helps their cause. The only thing incognito really does is that I guess it just makes your browser history look a bit more clean. Number 3, enable full disk encryption. This is a very complicated topic. Even a lot of people into cybersecurity don't really know. It protects all your files in case of theft.
Basically, FDE is a security measure that protects data on a device by encoding it. This prevents unauthorized access, again, the biggest cause of cybersecurity, cyber crime. It prevents this to the data, even if the device is lost or stolen, even if you lose your computer or someone steals your phone in broad daylight. Full disk encryption and make sure that they won't be able to do anything with it. There are many benefits and limitations to full disk encryption. It's transparent to whatever operating system you're on, so the operating system won't even notice it. iOS will never know about the fact that you probably jailbroke your iPhone to get Android apps on it. It's also very user-friendly, and it does not disrupt daily operations, so you can still use your phone normally. It's fully encrypted. Unfortunately, it does have a small performance penalty. If you use it for a long
it is
time,
quite literally
it's
taking
tough.
everything on your computer and putting it all in one place just so you can keep it safe. It's gonna make your device chug like a train.
It's like, recording 4K video. It uses all the processing power of your phone at once. that's a lot. You
No,
can't
it's like
record it for
4K
long.
60 HDR.
That's very difficult. It's also only as strong as its password.
Which is us going back. It's cyclic. It cycles back to the start of this video, in which we always talk about it, even in the past episodes. A strong password really is one of the best things you can have.
So you need to make sure to have a strong password and use it strongly.
And we're talking about super strong, because this is your whole device. You're keeping in one encryption.
Weak devices with weak passwords, full disk encryption won't do anything for them. If you want to know how to enable FDE, make sure to look it up on your own, as it's a very complex issue that we'll probably be discussing in another episode. For now, on Windows, sign into your device with an administrator account, basically being the main account that you use, and try and search for Manage BitLocker in the search menu. When you find it, select the option to turn it on and back up your recovery key. This means you need to create a separate account and password, again, a very, very strong password for your full disk encryption, and then select Activate. You have now enabled full disk encryption, and it won't be affecting any activity on your devices, so you can go about your normal day. It's a very strong feature that we highly recommend.
With all of that being said, of course, like we said, this is a very complicated issue, by far the most complex thing we've tackled thus far. So trust us when we say this probably isn't the last you'll be hearing of full disk encryption.
Absolutely.
Number 4, turn off Bluetooth and Wi-Fi when not in use.
This one is really simple, very straightforward.
Really simple, but a lot of people don't do it. And of course, a lot of people debate over it. It's like, do we really need to? A lot of people would just leave it on because, oh, well, I mean, if I want to use headphones, it's very convenient to just have Bluetooth there, and yay, it's connected. And of course, Wi-Fi, for most people, it's the entire internet they define under Wi-Fi. But if you're not using it, then you could just turn it off, because a lot of cybercrime starts with something on Bluetooth being connected, and it's like, I don't even own this thing.
Yeah.
And then with Wi-Fi, of course, we've talked about public Wi-Fi. Again, it's shorthand for you're going to get hacked today if you're not using a VPN. So
actually, yeah, that happens to me a lot in school. When I'm using a computer, some random kids will just be trying to hook up their Bluetooth on my computer with some headphones I've never heard of. It's actually annoying. And that's not even hacking at all. That's just, people not really being careful with their Bluetooth.
Just logging on into whatever it finds. And hackers will say, here's malware. Go onto this random person's Bluetooth or their Wi-Fi. So turn it off when you're not using it. Maybe when you're sleeping is a good place to start.
If you're in an airplane, use airplane mode. Simple stuff like that. It's kind of like turning off the electricity when you're not in the house. It's a good way not to waste energy. And specifically for cybersecurity, it's a good way not to waste away your personal data in case of a hacking.
Number 5. Be skeptical of emails and links. If it looks suspicious, don't click.
Very easy, and at this point, you've probably heard us talk about it a lot. So we're going to oversimplify a bit and say, come up with a list of red flags on what you think looks suspicious, and be sure to check your emails for anything new that comes in. You always have to be attentive to any new emails. Anything that's old, you don't need to go over it again. But anything that's new, there could be a cybercrime waiting to happen. So if any emails or links fill that list of red flags, make sure to avoid.
Or even if they just crossed one of them. Like, alrighty, that's like, I don't know.
It's like the Bible verse that says, if you've broken one commandment, you've broken all 10 of them.
Because it's true.
Absolutely true.
Now you know how to secure your system against hackers, how to set up one so secure. Again, these hackers will be breaking their chest. They'll be like, oh man, we wanted to hack someone so bad today. But these people, they listen to us, and now...
They're students of Twin Tech Cyber Academy. I didn't know they attended that school, man. What are we going to do?
It's impossible to hack them. That's what you know how to do now, having watched this video.
While it's very important to note that many of these are specifically for this instance of setting up a secure system. Maybe you just bought a new phone, maybe you updated it to a whole new iOS. It's very important to keep a lot of this from the day to day. Of course, not all of these, since a lot of these are going to be mostly in the background, but stuff like keeping up with your VPN, applying strong passwords to every single new website that you set up, as well as unique ones. All of these are things that you need to develop habits on, and you're going to be very happy that you did.
And of course, not just new devices, but old ones as well. As we discussed with some tragic situations, some of the worst cyber crimes are because just old geezers get caught lacking in the hood.
And to be fair, a lot of people do keep their old devices around. There are a lot of things on older software and older hardware too that a lot of people value. So if you want to keep those devices safe too, all of what we're saying applies to them as well. So you don't need to worry about getting rid of any devices.
It's not
That's
really
definitely not
about
what we're
age,
saying.
and it's not really about performance. Definitely not the brand that made them.
No.
Don't start that war in the comments. Please don't.
Please don't.
It's all about safety, keeping your devices
safe.
That is cybersecurity. The rest is commentary. If this video helped you, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, do all the things that people tell you on YouTube to do.
Yeah, and we also have a question for you. If you knew about any of these cybersecurity tips, make sure to drop a comment below. We'd love to hear from you, and maybe you can have something to teach to other people looking around too, because who knows, maybe someone might be interested in full disencryption.
Because of course we love to teach people who are completely new, but we also welcome students who already have some experience in cybersecurity so they can keep on learning. Maybe they can learn, help other people in the comment section too. You know, it's all about learning at the end of the day. You learn something new every day.
And, you know, maybe there's some VPNs that you may have heard of. Again, do your own research. We really want you to look into us on this so that you can form your own unique secure system in your own manner.
Next episode, we're diving into ethical hacking, not bad hacking, good hacking, as in using the skills of hacking, because hacking at the end of the day just means you know how to get into devices really well.
You know how to manipulate them. So you can definitely use those same type of manipulation.
If you know how to hack, if you know how to get into systems, you can work with people who want to use that to make devices more secure.
Absolutely.
Stay subscribed.
Stay secured.